Hey, vinyl community, Doodah Dave coming at you. All right, part three, right? We're up for the 1975. I'm just gonna cue into my Discogs, my collection, and put it on sort by year. And that will be 1975, 1975, 1975. Okay, let's. Where am I am at Eagles. So the Eagles had a release in 1975 by the name of One of These Nights, and it had quite a few hits on it. Oh, I was just doing a thing on Reddit. They asked for your favorite instrumental. There was a fantastic instrumental on this called Journey of the Sorcerer, the end of side one. Bernie Leadon tune, really, really good. So this is the Birds, not those birds. I never thought of that. The Eagles being a takeoff on the Birds. Oh, yeah, now I get it. Kind of like the Beatles with the crickets and stuff. So there it is on the Asylum label. You got Lion Eyes on here. You got One of These Nights, obviously title cut. You got Hollywood Waltz, which doesn't get much love, but pretty cool. Take It to the Limit. That's a big one. And After the Thrill Is Gone. So a lot of singles off of this one. I remember when One of These Nights came out, and it was kind of disco Eagles. So that was kind of, and they're the boys. This was the version with Felder and Bernie Leadon, and it was Randy Meisner on the end there, and then you got Fry in the middle and Don Henley over here. And great artwork, of course. Eagles always have great artwork. And this is a raised cover, relief, whatever you want to call it. Okie dokie. Moving right along. Frank Zappa. One Size Fits All, his 1975 band. And this and Apostrophe are two of my favorite Zappa albums of all time. Zappa Mothers, just really, really incredible on his Discreet label. There it is, Discreet. And this has Inca Roads, Can't Afford No Shoes, Sofa Number One, Pajama People. The first side is just killer. Florentine Pogan, Evelyn a Modified Dog, Sam Berdino, Andy, and Sofa Number Two. So George Duke is on here, Tom Fowler on bass, George Duke on keys, the great fusion keyboard player. I believe is Ponte on here? Ponte is not on here, John Look. Ponte, but you've got Ruth Underwood, you have Johnny Guitar Watson, Bloodshot Rollin' Red, who I believe was Captain Beefheart, George Duke, Napoleon Murphy Brock on the woodwinds and some lead vocal, Chester Thompson on drums, the fantastic Chester Thompson. I mean, who drums for Frank Zappa, Genesis, and Weather Report? I mean, that's just wild. Tom Fowler, I mentioned, Ruth Underwood on Vibes. So it's a really, really, really. Kerry McNabb was one of the engineers. You see him on a lot. Cal Schenkel, a lot of the names. 1975. He's got the lyrics on the inside. Nice gatefold here, and nice. And then Zappa type artwork. There's the sofa. A lot of the songs are portrayed on here. He's got the constellations there. One Size Fits All. Now, the next album, I do not have the cover, but I have a record. And since it's such an iconic record, can you guess what it is, 1975? Yes, it is Physical Graffiti. And of the two discs, this is a pretty good one, because I got Kashmir on here. I got Houses of the Holy, I got trampled underfoot, and that's all on one side. And the other side is a Custard Pie, The Mover, and In My Time. I will get the full album and get the, because the cover was taken down in the Village. It's really iconic. When the Stones did Tattoo You, they used that same building down in the Village, Greenwich Village, for the artwork on that. What can you say about physical graffiti? I mean, the first double album, right, from Zapp. I don't think they had released. No, they didn't release the live album from the '73 tour at that point. I don't think. So Jimmy went back and forth. I know about should it be a double album, shouldn't it? But they felt they had enough to do that, and it just In My Time of Dying, Achilles' Last Stand. It's just the other record I have to get. It's really a great one. On the Swan Song, which was their own label. Zepp. After Zepp, we have The Prisoner. Prisoner in Disguise. Linda Ronstadt coming in. She was very, very popular. There's a picture of Linda on the back. Now, this was an album of, Linda didn't write too much. She did a lot of covers, but she kind of took these covers very seriously. I mean, there's several Silver Blue, John David Souther tunes on here. I believe she was dating at this time. I think a lot of the songs on here were people that she had dated. I mean, obviously not Dolly Parton, but Neil Young. I think she was very close to him if she didn't date him. I know she dated Lowell George, or had a fling with him at least. Smokey Robinson, James Taylor, the John David Souther tune, Silver Blue and Prisoner in Disguise, Heat Wave. So she does a bunch. She does a couple of Heat Wave and Tracks on My Tears, a couple of Motowns. Sweetest Gift is by J.B. Coates, so that's more traditional. And in the inside, in the gatefold, it's got the lyrics of each of the songs written out by the authors in the author's own hand. Got the Roll 'em Easy, Lowell George tune. What'd she do? Hey Mister, That's Me Up on the Jukebox is the James Taylor, which is very interesting to hear it done by a female, because it's kind of a male tune. I mean, she was very good at that, at taking the gender and switching it. She did that with a lot of the Warren Zevon tunes, Poor Poor Pitiful Me, etc. And it's just a magnificent album all around. You got her band on here, the Kenny Edwards, Andrew Gold, and Dan Dugmore, and then you've got people like Russell Kunkel on drums, of course, from the section, David Lindley on slide, Peter Asher, who I believe produced, yes, James Taylor's producer, and from Apple Records. You've got who else on here? Lowell George on Roll 'em Easy himself on slide. And Tracks on My Tears, and she's got a lot of people singing. But David Kemper on drums, who played drums with Jerry later on. John David Souther sings with her on Prisoner. As I say, she was dating him at the time. John David Souther kind of written a lot for the Eagles. It was kind of like an unofficial Eagle. He was in the Hillman Fury, right? Souther Hillman Fury Band, which had one or two albums. Emmylou Harris is on Sweetest Gift, playing acoustic guitar and harmony vocal. So you get the idea. Kenny Edwards, who else on here? Maria Muldaur is on You Tell Me That I'm Falling Down on the McGarrigle Sisters. Obviously, she didn't date them either. So I don't mean she dated everybody, but there's Neil, there's James Taylor, there's Lowell George, there's Souther. I mean, that's four guys that she was very, very close to, and I know at least two of them. I know she slept with. She's talked about it. So I mean, one of them was a boyfriend, and then she had the fling with Lowell George. All right, moving right along with Linda, Prisoner in Disguise, kind of her looking, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of a dollhouse there, the way she is sitting there in the square. Terrific album. Very kind of somber, doesn't have the upbeatness of When Will I Be Loved, A Heart Like a Wheel. but really gets into the songwriters and really, she's just so good at translating a song. All right, big hit 1975, Jefferson Starship. After the Airplane broke up in 73, so this is 75. It went into two. It was bifurcated into two. Oh, I didn't realize I wore my hat today. See, Hot Tuna and Jefferson Starship were the two branches that they bifurcated into the Airplane. And you had a lot of solo albums. Everybody did solo. Grace did solo albums. Paul did solo albums. Yorma did solo albums. Papa John Creech did solo albums. And the drummers. So this is the band, very big band. And I saw this band in 75 in Central Park, Outlaws warming up. It was fantastic. Papa John, they did everything. They did Miracles. They did Caroline. They did Ride the Tiger. It was just really, really awesome. And a lot of, I think, Wooden Ships. If you seen the Saucers, I didn't play Mexico, but they played a lot of stuff. Quick story about Jefferson Airplane. I went to see them in one of their reunion shows. No, it was the Starship, actually. And my friend Larry, big shout out to Larry if you're watching this, Larry. How you doing? And happy Pesach. He goes to me, David, will they play Lather? And I go, no, they're not going to play Lather. This was in the 90s at Carnegie Hall. They played Lather. It was fantastic. So shout out to Larry. I'll never forget that show going to Dave Mason opened up. That was a great double bill. So this, moving right along, is EJ, the DJ, Elton John, out when he was doing the Caribou Ranch stuff, Rock of the Westies. I think this was his second album out, or maybe it was his first album out there. The big single from this was Island Girl. The band is great, of course. You've got Bernie Taupin doing all the lyrics. They're very big in lyrics back in 75. They had a lot of lyrics. There's Gus Dungeon. That's the producer, actually. Picture of him. And you've got Davy Johnstone, Ray Cooper, of course. It was Record Store Day today, and they released an Elton John, Ray Cooper, I think from Royal Albert Hall or something like that. Caleb Quay, James Newton Howard, interesting, who did a lot of soundtracks. Look how young he is there. He did a lot of soundtracks. There's Bernie. I mean, they were all very young on this, 75. So Caleb Quay guitars, John Pope, Roger Pope on drums. So that was his pretty much stock band. Kenny Passarelli on bass. He'd been working with James Newton Howard played the keys. Davy Johnstone did guitars and mandolins, and Ray Cooper on the percussion. And there's Elton looking very rustic there in his rugby shirt. Cool album. I'd give it, 3.5 stars. It's not a Madman. It's not a Yellow Brick. It's not Tumbleweed, but a solid Elton. Nothing wrong with that. Moving right along, we move into, of course, 75. Disco was raging, and I got this Silver Convention, Fly Robin Fly. Actually, Dylan, my son, shout out to him, picked this one up. And they were a German band. They had, I think, 3 ladies up front singing. Very good. The Fly Robin Fly ladies, there they are. Very cool. And this is a long player. I mean, this isn't just a single, but Fly Robin Fly is pretty much. Silver Convention lives in Munich, Germany, and belongs to the new generation of artists who have broken with the established image of German music. So I guess after ABBA, a lot of the European bands jumped on the bandwagon. This is on Midland Records, distributed, it looks like, by RCA. This was printed in the USA. Composer arranger Sylvester LeVay, derived from their producer Michael Kunze, Kunze. Fly Robin Fly, Silver Convention. Great disco, dance music. Very, very good. A lot of beats per minute. And Marshall Tucker. I was just talking online about Marshall Tucker doing Orange Blossom Special. I don't think they ever did Orange Blossom Special. I don't know Tucker. Oh, they had, I think, Long Hard Ride was the instrumental they had mentioned. This is Searching for a Rainbow. It's probably my second favorite. I love Where We All Belong. So I love This Old Cowboy. That's my favorite. So this is probably my second. I love Fire on the Mountain. Not to be confused with the Charlie Daniels Band album Fire on the Mountain, or the Fire on the Mountain, the song by the Grateful Dead. This is the song on here. It's got a live version of Can't You See, their big hit, of course. Searching for a Rainbow, Walking and Talking. Very, very good. Very, very good. Solid Tucker. I'd give this four to 4.5 stars. I like this album a lot. This was their fourth album on Capricorn, right after the live album. Live, it was half live and half studio. Where We All Belong, and great. Is this Flournoy? No, Heather Featherston. It's kind of like a Flournoy Holmes type of cover, but it's great. And there's the band in front of the bus, and yeah, fantastic. Marshall Tucker Band. Marshall Tucker Band was to the Allman Brothers the way the New Riders were to the Grateful Dead. Speaking of the Grateful Dead, Sea Stones. Don't see this one. People talk about this too much. This was electronica, I guess, like EDM music before there was electronica EDM music. Ned Lagan in '74, and Phil, the bass player, of course, who was a trained in classical trumpet. Everybody knows that story. Did this Sea Stones thing with synthesizers, and you can see the graphics on it is pretty crazy. And look at the people backing up. Now, I'm going to read these people off, but on the David Crosby albums and some of the CSN albums, Nash and stuff, you can pick these guys out. This is so electronica, I guess I would call it, EDM, electronic dance music, that it's hard to pick these people out. But here's the list of players. Ned Lagan, keyboards, basically. Phil Lesh, electric bass. Jerry Garcia, electric guitars, vocals. The vocals are basically just singing. I mean, it's hard to hear words, even though there's lyrics on the back. It's a strange album. What do you want me to tell you? Dave Crosby, Alembic electric 12-string. There you go. Grace Slick, David Freiberg from the aforementioned Jefferson Starship. I didn't go through all the Starship people. Craig Chiquico, Paul Kantner, Grace Slick, Papa John Creech. I think it was Johnny Barbata on drums, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not going to go back to that. And who did I miss? Freiberg and Pete Sears, who alternated on. Sears was more the piano player, but he could play bass, and Freiberg played bass and sang. Slick, Freiberg, vocals, both of them. Mickey Hart on gongs, and Spencer Dryden from the New Riders, the Purple Sage, I just mentioned, on cymbals. So it's an all-star cast of San Francisco musicians. And Betty Kantner, Bob Matthews did the computer interfacing by Ned Lagan and Scott Wedge. So, I mean, I'm a little bit older. 1975 to read computer interfacing. I mean, computers really didn't come into music until 84, 83, 85, and then you had CDs, hit really big in maybe 87, right? So this was way, way ahead of his time. Mickey Hart Studios, Mickey Hart's Rolling Thunder, Bob Weir's studio, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Brandeis University. You just get a kick out of it. All right, enough with the Sea Stones, Lesh. Okay, changing gears a little bit. Billy Cobham, the great drummer who had played with Mahavishnu Orchestra, and I believe he played with Miles Davis. I think at one point, one of the electric bands, he played with Miles Davis, I'm pretty sure. Out of Berklee College, this was his fourth album, a live album recorded live in Europe. I think it was in Montreux, if I'm not, and it's called Shabazz, and it's great. I mean, I'm trying to pick up every early Billy Cobham. John Abercrombie on guitar, great guitarist. I have him on a couple of other albums. Michael Brecker, I have on many albums. Both Michael and Randy saxophone and trumpet were his horn section in this band. Glenn Ferris on trombone, Milcho Lviv on keyboards. I believe he was an Israeli keyboard player, really excellent. Alex Blake on bass, and of course Billy on the Skins. Yeah, Montreux, July 4th, 1974. This was recorded. And then the Rainbow Theatre in England. Great live Billy Cobham. If you like Billy Cobham, I mean, any of them. Stratus was the big hit from Spectrum. The first one, Crosswinds. Total Eclipse I don't have. I do have Funky Thide. Funky Thide of Sings. I did that in one of the other videos. So this was the live album. So he had two albums that actually came out in 75. A first album for this guy that had a lot of hits in the 80s, Robert Palmer, Sneakin' Sally, In the Alley. Lowell George and Little Feat were very big in 75, doing a lot. I think they had come out with the last record album, if I'm not mistaken. I think Feats Don't Fail Me Now was 74, and that was 75 was last record album. So he's on this and did some of the writing. The meters are on this as well. Here's Robert. Very green, this record, and it's magnificent. He's got Alan Toussaint writing some of these songs. I'm a big fan of his, of course, as is Lowell George. Got the Meters, you've got the Nevilles, who are part of the Meters, you've got, who else? Lowell George. You've got Stuff, which is another band I'm very, very into. And a lot of them played in the Saturday Night Live band. Richard T., Bernard Purdy, Cornell Dupree, Lowell George again. He wasn't in Stuff, but he played on the Get Outside. Mel Collins on horns that I think we talked about before on another album. And Vicki Brown on backing vocals, more Meters, more Stuff. So they back him up on this, and it's just great. Onaje on electric piano, which I think is Onaje Alan Gomes, who's a great fusion player through it all. There's you. He's got two Alan Toussaints, From a Whisper to a Scream and Sneakin' Sally. Lowell wrote Sailing Shoes, and he and Palmer wrote together Blackmail. Fantastic 75 album. Highly recommend it. On the Island, I think this, yeah, Island. Chris Blackwell. I don't think this is a Pink label. I think this was post-Pink label. Yeah, this is Palm Tree label. Funny how Island Records had palm trees and Warner Brothers had palm trees. It's a cool looking label, right? Yeah. Island had the palm trees with the island, and then, of course, the palm trees on the Warner Brothers label has the trees like Beverly Hills Boulevard, I guess. All right, I told you I was doing soundtracks, and I'm also doing jazz, obviously, with Billy Cobham. And we're going to have Dave Liebman coming up. This was classical. I haven't really had a classical one from 75, but it's kind of a classical jazz, classical. Suite for flute and jazz piano. Really big. Don't hear much about this album. Claude Bolling and Jean-Pierre Rampal. So these guys were two classical guys, but they really dug into a jazzy version of this music. And in his first jazz recording, Jean-Pierre Rampal. So it's 75. It's on Columbia, I believe. Yes, Columbia Masterworks. So I'll take a look at the label. Yeah, it's the label that was much like the label for the Broadway show, the Chorus Line I showed, Bowling. And I think they wrote these, Jean-Pierre Rampal. Who else is on here? Marcel Sablani on drums and Max Hediger on string bass. So it's a quartet with the flute and piano. Of course, all acoustic, no electric going on here. It's really, really interesting. Really, really good. I mean, I had to look to see if the tunes, they were actually doing classical tunes jazzed up, or they wrote their own thing. They wrote their own thing for this, but it sounds classically. Classically, it sounds. All right. Speaking of classic, Dave Liebman had played. I'm sure he played with Mr. Miles Davis. This is a great band. I don't think this might have been his first album as a leader on Horizon, and I've talked about A&M Horizon. I think I talked about the Sunny Fortune album, right? The Awakening. That's on Horizon. I've got Chet Baker on Horizon. I'm very big on Horizon. I like the packaging, nice gatefold. It's not Blue Note, it's not Impulse, and they get A&M Horizon. Got really good side people for these guys when they went out. So he had Richie Byrock on piano, John Abercrombie again on guitars, Don Elias on congas, who played with everybody from Pat Metheny to Jocko and Joni Mitchell on that tour, and a lot of other albums. Who Badal Roy on tabla has his own. He does the has his own song that he writes on here called Ajirbad, where Liebman plays flute. So he plays flute and he plays tenor and he plays soprano. I don't think he plays alto. Yeah, he plays alto flute. No alto sax, I don't think. He does Within You Without You, which is pretty cool. So it's a really neat album. You can see Sweet Hands. So it's got kind of the Eastern thing going on. Here's the band. There's Liebman. And I don't hear much about him, but this was a really fantastic band. Frank Tusa on bass. 1975. Recorded Ken Dunn Recorders in Burbank. Mixed by Liebman and Richie Byrock. Really, really good. Really, really good. Solid jazz. A lot of liner notes on this. Okay, moving right along. I'm going along. One of my favorite bands, one of my favorite fusion bands, Weather Report. This is Tailspinnin', and this is one of my favorite of their albums. I think this was the second one that I got. First was Mysterious Traveler. Tailspinnin'. This came out obviously in '75. I saw them in Chicago with Jocko. I want to say '77. I get mixed up on the years. It could have been '78. I remember they did the slideshow, and at that point, rock concerts, they weren't very sophisticated. Even late '70s. I mean, not auditorium shows. I mean, they were doing, if you were Pink Floyd or you were a big, Kiss or something, I'm sure you had lights and all kinds of stuff. But they did a slideshow of the jazz guys during Birdland. All of the people, the classic jazz guys, Monk and Train and Miles and all that was just incredible. So you got on this lineup, Alphonso Johnson, of course, Wayne Shorter, and Joe Zawinul held it down. Beautiful photography on the cover there too. Man in the green shirt kicks it off, Lusitanos between the thighs. The three songs on each side, so they're nice and long and they stretch up. Adia, Freezing Fire, and 5 short stories, which is really cool. Kind of an acoustic thing with the 5 short stories was Zawinul. And there's an acoustic thing with Shorter. Maybe that's, I don't know. I have to get back to you on that one. I thought Shorter. Oh, there's Shorter. Tenor sax is on 5 short stories. Okay, it's hidden. It just says Shorter tenor sax. That one just has them by the last names. And Bruce Botnick did the mixing on this. If you know Bruce Botnick, he did the Doors albums. He's been on Steve Westman's channel. Shout out to Steve. Recorded at Wally Heider, the great San Francisco, and he had a place in Hollywood, I think, as well. Just dedicated to the living. That's funny. This is a great album. Nagudu on drums, and it calls him Al Johnson, Alphonso Johnson on bass. So I'm very big on it. I got his solo album, Alphonso. He's one of my favorite bass players. I mean, Miroslav Vitus and Jocko get all the love for the bass, but I think Alphonso is fantastic. And last, Commander Cody, because I'm coming up, I kind of went long on this. And the Lost Planet Airmen, love this album. I wouldn't give this 5 stars, Cody, but I would give this 4.5. I really would. Tales from the Ozone. It's really, really good. I read the reviews of it. We talked about Starship before. There's Rick Higginbotham with his. This was the album. You can't really see it too well, but it's the Dragonfly, right? Dragonfly was the album before Red Octopus. They did all the Red Octopus was water, Dragonfly was air. They did Earth, and they did Earth. They did a fire album as well too, Spitfire. So they did the 4 elements. There's Cody, and he's got a Santana shirt on, and then somebody's got a New Riders shirt. So they play with a lot of people. Hoyt Axton is all over this album. He produced it. There's Hoyt, if you know Gremlins. He played the dad in Gremlins. Hoyt, great. And I've been to Georgia on a fast train. Honky Tonk Music, Minnie the Moocher, the Cab Calloway tune. They really killed that because they're like a big band. They had several guitars and several regular guitars and a pedal steel, so you got 3 guitars. They had several. They had Tichy on vocals, and then Bill Kirchen could do vocals, and then Cody could do vocals. So they had kind of like, I don't want to compare them to the band, but how the band were multi-instrumentals, had multi-singers. Of course, the Beatles did too. I mean, I think great bands tend to have that. Either you have a Robert Plant and a Jim Morrison, or you have multiple vocals, like the Grateful Dead and Allman Brothers, etc., etc. What else do I want to say about Tales from the Ozone? This was on Warner Brothers. They were on Paramount before this, I believe, for the first 3 albums. This was their 4th album, I think. Maybe 5th, maybe Live in Armadillo, which I don't have. I have, this is Tales from the Ozone. Lost in the Ozone. I have Cold Steel. I can't think of the name of it, but it's a truck driving album is the second one. I have that on CD. I have the third one, Country Casanova, and then this. And then there was a live album. And then we've got a live one here, was the one from Europe, which I think was 76 the next year. Recorded at the record plant, Sausalito. What else do I want to say about this? It's just really, really great. Tina Louise is a great song. The Shadow Knows, kind of funny. Gypsy Fiddle, Andy Stein gets to stretch out. They have a violin as well. So I was saying, Lance Dickerson, the drummer, the band of Commander Cody, if you listen to them, and you can see they've got... they're pretty big band, 4, 3, 8 of them, right? Shown on the cover. And they really can do kind of country swing like Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys, or Asleep at the Wheel, which I love. Western swing, I'm a big fan of that. I love all that kind of music. So that's it. Doodah Dave coming at you. Please like the video if you do like the video, and leave me a comment. If you have any suggestions, I've got one more 1975 and then I'm finished. Have a great weekend. Happy Record Store Day. This was my nod to Record Store Day. Retro, you know me, I'm a kind of a retro guy. And keep the peace, as Kenny's audiophile says. Shout out to Tony's LPs or Us. Shout out to MGK Boston. Shout out to Dylan. Shout out to Mazzy. Shout out to Steve Westman, I mentioned, and all my homies across the vinyl community. Keep on spinning.